Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberg. This podcast has been created with you in mind to acquaint you with some of the most incredible metaphysicians and spiritual leaders from around the globe who have helped others change their lives. In this interactive hour, you will be offered insights and techniques to help you make a difference in your life. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening platform. And here we go, on to the show.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. First of all, please let me apologize. There were technical difficulties, so we started a little bit late. Mercury is in retrograde. It has started yesterday, and it goes to the 14th of January. So if you find yourself being delayed traveling over the holidays, or electronic issues, car troubles, computer troubles, be patient. I mean, you might have to get it fixed, but chuck it up to Mercury in retrograde. And so anyway, okay, I want to just make a couple quick announcements before we start the show. There's a lot of strife going on across the world, both in the United States and your country, as well as Israel and Palestine and Ukraine and the innocent people in Russia, because not everybody in Russia are bad people. They're not all fighting to get Ukraine. So send out love, send out peace, send out light for these people. If you can donate, please donate. If you can donate time, that would be helpful as well. And there's so many insecurities: food, housing, health. So we want to continue to send out love and light for all to get what it is they need for a healthy, divine journey. Also, before I introduce our guest, it's gift giving time. So my book, My Fucking Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path, can be found on my website, MarlaGoldberrg with 2Rs.com, or on Amazon. Great gift. My journey to self-love. I did it so that you can have an easier journey to your self-love. All right, now on with my guest. I'm so excited. This woman was so gracious, as I had to cancel due to illness, and she's here back with us, Reverend Sue Frederick. So welcome, Reverend Sue. Sue is she has a unique gift of powerful intuition, channeled wisdom from guides and departed loved ones, sacred numerology, and spiritual insights, which lifts you into the mystical for healing grief and finding purpose. Reverend Sue Frederick is an ordained minister, numerologist, master numerologist, again, lifelong intuitive and certified past life and between lives soul regression therapist. She is the author of several books. One of them is brand new. The first one I'm going to mention is her latest, Through a Divine Lens. Then there's the Sacred Numerology Workbook, Bridges to Heaven, and I See Your Dream Job. So, Reverend Sue, welcome.
Oh, I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm sorry for my tech difficulties. It's so strange when that happens, because I do this kind of interview every day, and all of a sudden nothing works.
Right. Well, again, you can thank Mercury for that.
Spirits are playing with us.
Absolutely. So you've been on this path for a long time. You've been helping people for a long time. What was the catalyst that threw you onto your spiritual path? Because usually most people are thrown on rather than gently finding.
Oh, yeah. The problem with being human is that we forget who we are until something hurts us. And then we go, oh, wait, what is life really about? Why am I here? Is there a God? Where do my beloveds go when they cross over? And all of those questions hit me when I was 29, 30 years old, because my first husband died from cancer. And we were these healthy mountain climbing young kids, and thought we could live forever. And all of a sudden he had stomach problems. And the next thing we knew, he was dying. And that was a huge soul wake-up call for me.
Yeah.
So I always tell people grief is actually our greatest spiritual teacher, because then we really seek the important answers to life. and we don't give up until we find what resonates as true for us, And so what a holy blessing it is to have our hearts broken, because then we go on a journey of really learning and then turning around and helping others, just like you've done.
Exactly. And it reminds me of that commercial about Thomas Edison, like, I didn't fail 999 times or 1,000 times, but I found 999 ways not to do something.
Right.
And with heartbreak, it's the same thing. You're still dealing with, you're, learning how to maneuver grief and hurt and pain and rejection and abandonment. And a lot of times it will, catalyze, is that the right word? Onto your path. It'll springboard you onto your path.
Right.
Sometimes you don't listen, and it will definitely give you some spiritual kicks until you do.
Absolutely.
Spirit doesn't give up, right?
Soul nudges, right? I'm such a stubborn person that my soul arranged this lifetime where I would have these huge grief losses that would happen like at the age of 30, at the age of 32, at the age of 34. It just continued. My best girlfriend died right after Paul died, and then my best friend Marv, and then my dad, and it just continued. So you could look at life two different ways. And I always say that's what I wrote my whole book about, through a divine lens. If I look at it through my human ego story, like, gee, I lost all these people, it sounds sad and tragic and random.
Right.
And I think one of the things that put me on my journey was I would have people say things to me like, oh, you have bad luck. And I go, what are you talking about? This isn't luck or bad luck, And so I needed to have a comeback to that, And so the more I studied, the more I began to go, oh, wow, these are soul agreements. The people I love who've crossed over, they're still with me. They come to me all the time. They tell me things about how life works, what happens beyond the veil. And people are telling me I have bad luck. That's not true. I have a great spiritual gift of an amazing awakening call. And guess what? None of us get out of this human lifetime without some kind of wake-up call, sooner or later.
That's so true. God, it's so true. What was the first modality you drove into?
Well, that was the gift of my life. It was a numerology reading. I always tell people you can try traditional grief counseling, and if it works for you, I'm very happy about that. But for me, it really didn't, because they told me, oh, well, you have to move on. And that's an illusion. When you think Paul is in bed with you at night, you're having grief hallucinations,
Right.
And I was like, no, these are not hallucinations. I'm sorry. And so I had to figure out what they were. And when I had a numerologist sit down with me and go, this is your soul path. You agreed to be this 22 soul and get all this work done to help other people. And this was Paul's path, and this was your soul agreement. Like, my soul just lit up and said, that feels more true than anything anybody has said to me so far. So I would say my study of numerology began in 1980. My study of intuition began in my 30s, because the spirits of my beloved departeds were so present. I was either going to have to say, I'm crazy, I've lost my mind, or I'm going to have to start understanding how this works. And so I think a lot of my friends worried about me a lot in my 30s, because I'd say, oh, I was with Chrissy all night and she was making me laugh and we were flying around. And then I called her mom and found out she had just crossed over. I mean, at a certain point in your 30s, your friends go, I don't know, you sound a little like you're too out there. And yet, it was too woo-woo. And yet it was real for me. It was my life, my reality.
Right.
And so I had to keep pursuing it. And spirituality is what came to me through studying numerology, studying intuition, is we have to understand that the body is a temporary shell here. And that once we begin to look at it that way and understand that we're all these powerful divine beings who came here on purpose for a journey of waking up, remembering to love each other, helping each other. And yet we're not acting that way very often here. And that spiritual answer is what has helped me the most.
I agree with you, because I had been in talk therapy for like 10 years about my first marriage. And, it was great to, but nothing changed, nothing shifted. Once I started down my spiritual path and started healing, then my life started shifting, and all that muck from behind, was behind me. And I just kept going. It's almost like finding the Emerald City at the Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite metaphysical movies,
Me
even though.
too.
And so that it's like finding that yellow brick road, getting there without, sometimes you have those dark forest,
Yes.
deep forest experiences, but it's so you can heal and you can grow and you can learn how to handle all the things that spirit throws at you or life throws at you.
That's so well put. Yes, that's exactly right.
And so, well, let's move into this book. You just released it not too long ago, correct? Like a couple
Yeah, it
months?
came out in June. Yeah.
Wow, time flies. Okay. And so the divine lens,
Yeah.
through a divine lens, correct?
Yeah.
Did I say that properly? I moved
Right.
my notes.
Through a divine lens. Yeah.
Thank you. Talk about the book. Tell me about what prompted you to write it and what does it contain?
Well, what prompted me to write it was in 2014, I had been traveling a lot and teaching these grief shifting workshops where I would help grieving people connect by themselves to their departed through meditation and automatic writing, which I love doing because we're all intuitive. We can all connect. We just have to learn to trust it and to go there. But I came home really exhausted, and then I got really sick, and I had such a high fever that at one point I left my body and I was held in this sacred space with, I guess, angels. I couldn't see them. They were kind of all around me, and they were so loving and so kind, and they were telepathically communicating with me, and they showed me Earth at a distance, and they said, "Do you see those light beams shooting up from Earth?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Every time a soul on Earth awakens to their truth that they're a divine being, not a physical being, and they're here to love and have compassion, a light shoots up from their heart chakra, and it awakens others." And they showed me this moving light around the world, one light sparking another. And they said, "See, it's filling in all the dark crevices." And I said, "Why are you showing me this?" And they said, "Because life can look really dark up close, and the next few years are going to be hard for humanity. And so you have to be one of the messengers telling people to pull back and see it from the soul's view, the divine lens, and understand that the light is always winning, the love is always winning." And so I was like, okay. And when I got back in my body, the first thing I did was try to grab my laptop and write it, because I couldn't even express it in words. It was so profound that it was like I just had to sit and write and let it come through me. And so the message to the world was, how do we shift into this higher view? Because we're all stuck here doing the laundry, trying to figure out what's for dinner, and then finding out all these hard things are happening in the world. So how do we shift into our soul's view? And, meditation, spiritual practice, quieting the mind, opening the heart, using tools like numerology. I just loaded the book with all of these very practical ways that people can shift into that higher focus, because we have to now, Dr. Marla, you know that these times are calling us to quit arguing and being upset with the world, and instead start loving on each other, soul to soul, with compassion, and seeing the world and holding up the light that's in our hearts to help guide others who are stuck in the darkness.
I love that. And that is so powerful what you're saying, because so many people just they don't get it. That They are love, and you can emanate your love outward. And the stuff that you get, that you have either created yourself or you brought with you, yeah, they're not here to be anchors on you. They're not like those anvils on your ankles, putting you in the water. They're here so that you could go, oh, that's interesting, heal from it,
Yes.
and ascend to the next level. It's like climbing stairs.
And the other thing about that is, yes, everything that's part of our unique pain story guides us to how very specifically we can help other people. So, for example, my childhood of self-doubt, and being the weird kid and all that stuff, and then my adulthood of grief and loss. Well, as I turn that around, I'm helping each soul remember that they're a divine being and they came here on purpose, and find their path, their gifts, their intention, and live in alignment with that no matter what happens in the physical outer world. And once a person remembers their soul mission, like, oh my gosh, I am here to use my pain to help others, I am here to do such and such, it changes everything about their life, for the better.
It does. I so agree with you on that. And I just wish more people would take the chance, take the risk, go through like I call it the veil of fear, because so many people are taught to fear what you and I embrace, and many others. I mean, it's not just you and I against the world, but we embrace it for a reason. And I can't talk for you, but I can talk for me that since embracing spirit, since going down the path, my life is a 180 difference from what it was. And I am so grateful each and every day for that.
And the thing I've learned in my journey is that there's always going to be change. There's always going to be growth required. I mean, that's the one thing on earth that humans really struggle with. Like, how many times have you heard people say, oh, I got the perfect job now, I'm going to live happily ever after. I've got the perfect relationship, I'm going to live happily ever after. There's really no happily ever after, people. Sorry to tell you that. You've got to learn to love the journey, to open your heart, and to go on the growth cycle that your soul is on. And that's revealed in numerology. That's why I love numerology so much. It shows you where your 9-year cycles are. So here's an example of that. I was living in Colorado for 40 years. I was teaching and working with clients, doing my work, and just thinking, I got it going on here, I got it figured out. Whenever we think that, the universe laughs at us and goes, okay, she's ready for the next level. So I hit an end of a cycle in my numerology, and I was actually telling myself, Dr. Marla, oh, this ending won't be bad. Like, maybe we'll move our house to another smaller house because the kids have gone off to college. But I understand how this works. So then my current husband, who I adore, who I've raised my 2 kids with, our 2 kids, he was diagnosed suddenly with very aggressive cancer. And every doctor we went to was going, we can give you some weeks or months. It was so reminiscent of what I went through with Paul. And my beautiful husband, Gene, said, nah, we're not going to settle for that. And he found this one doctor at Mayo Clinic in Phoenix who said, I've got a new kind of treatment. And we suddenly, in my 9-year, had to sell our family home that I adored, had to pack it all up, move it to Arizona where I knew nobody, and Gene didn't know anybody. And we get here and I'm thinking, great, I'm in my late 60s and I'm never going to make friends. How am I going to do this?
How could you not make friends, Sue?
And of course, it was a perfect divine order move. We just needed courage. We needed courage of the heart to do it. And here I am 5 years later. Gene is thriving, my husband. I mean, beyond all reason, he's thriving. And I have found the greatest people on earth, my friends from helpingparentsheal.org, who I work with all the time. And it's a collection of grieving parents who know and practice connecting to their children in spirit. And that's my gig, right? And so I landed a mile from these amazing people, and they're a huge part of my life. And I'm like looking back going, I could never have imagined where my life was going. We are not in control the way we think we are, and yet it's always better than we think it's going to be. We just have to surrender to the change, surrender to the spirit, have a courageous heart, and say yes when we're given a light somewhere to follow.
I love the word surrender. It's something I just did in my personal life. And as soon as I just said, you know what, I'm surrendering this situation, peace came over me.
I know, it's amazing.
Oh, yes. And you did. I set the intention to do it. And here I am. You know, my human side sort of comes up a little bit here and there. But for the most part, I made the intentive agreement with myself that I'm going to surrender and not fight the situation, because fighting is like going in a resistance pool and you're going against the current.
Right. And, we've had to learn that on a certain level with politics. And I don't really want to talk about that because people get so upset. But I was always this, I marched against the Vietnam War in the 60s. I was a child of the 60s, right? And, so I marched with the Black movement in the South. And I thought, oh, yes, well, if you do those things, you can make changes, and that's how we change things for the better. That was another lesson I think we've had to collectively kind of release and surrender, because now what I'm learning at this phase in our journey is there's no more arguing. There's no more trying to change somebody's point of view. That is no longer the reality. So our path forward now is to love each other anyway, soul to soul.
Yes.
To sit at the dinner table with people that we may completely disagree with and focus on the parts of them we can love. And what a hard call to action that is for humanity. We've never been able to do that. And now we have to do that. That is our call.
And I agree with you. It's so hard. And accepting somebody for who they are, even though they don't, they don't have your same ideals,
yes,
is in some respect, it's so liberating.
Yes.
Once you're able to say,
surrender, you said, right? That surrender is like, yeah, okay, I understand we're completely on different sides of the world discussion right now, but I see your heart and you see mine, and I know that we are souls on a journey doing the best we can to our level of consciousness. And so I will love you as a soul doing your best.
Right.
And so it is.
It's being accepted for who and what they are. You don't have to like it. You don't have to condone it. And the only thing I might say is if somebody, because there's no bad soul, but there are bad humans.
Yes. There are personalities that are damaged enough that they act out in negative ways. But here's the thing. Everybody has a soul review at the end of life. So it's not our job to judge or condemn somebody else. When we get to the end of our life and when that person gets to the end of their life, they're lifted up and they're shown with spirit guides, with love, every ramification of their actions, their thoughts, their feelings. And it's us who goes, oh, why didn't I love more? Why wasn't I kinder? Why wasn't I more generous? It's our soul that sees it and even feels some of the pain that we've caused to others in the world. And so then we decide how to make a difference from there, from knowing those things. So we don't have to say, you are wrong and blah, 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 because they're going to go through their own learning when their soul crosses. And I always say in numerology, we can do a soul review while we're still alive, which is so helpful because numerology lets you map out all of your 9-year cycles and then review it yourself and go, oh, look, when that ending happened, I resisted that change and I blamed so-and-so that I lost my job. And now I look and realize, oh, wow, it was all something my soul planned for me, for my growth. And so there's great forgiveness in that, even the divorce, or the bankruptcy or all these things that happen to humans. When we see it from the soul's view, we go, wow, that made me become a better person. So my soul planned it. And then we have the awakening of, so our souls are planning all of this for us, for our highest good.
And before we're born, there are pre-birth plans in place where there are agreements. Robert Schwartz.
Oh, I love Robert Schwartz. And I was trained by Dr. Linda Bachman, who studied with Michael Newton, the original author of Many Lives and his book. And so I do soul regression therapy for my clients, and it's so healing. And I write about that in my book, Through a Divine Lens, because yes, we come in with a life plan, but it's a life plan for our highest evolution. It's not to hurt us. And I also know that if we start living from a higher frequency of love, forgiveness, compassion, we can ease through the challenges a lot better than when we're living in negativity, blame, anger. Then those challenges hit us like a brick wall falling on us, right? And they kind of keep us stuck. But the minute we're lifting up and saying, please, divine guides, show me this. Show me this moment of pain from a higher perspective that lifts me into the grace of it, the wisdom of it, and shows me the light and how to move forward. We are lifted into that soul's perspective. And now we see that light glimmering, that one little path we can take to move through it gracefully. And that's the benefit of trying to live the higher frequency of love and compassion.
I love that. So, Sue, for the listeners, is there something you can share with them, a technique that you can share to get them to, like, if they're resistant and they're like, one of these, I don't believe in this stuff, skeptical, that you could say, just try this and you'll feel it.
Yeah. Well, the most important thing we all have to do, and I write about this in all my books, teach it in all my classes, is you have to be quiet. You have to learn to quiet your mind, because your mind is part of the human journey. It's here to help you be safe. It's here to help you survive. It's always giving you negative messages like, oh, well, that's not real. You can't see it or touch it or feel it. Stay away from that. The minds and the ego are just trying to keep us alive here on earth, but they're not always telling us the truth. So in order to access the truth of intuition, of spirituality, we have to first quiet that left brain logic mind. Humans are terrified of quieting that mind because they think it's the only real part of themselves. So the Buddhists and the Hindus taught thousands of years ago, just repeat some form of sacred sound, or even listen to a higher frequency like a gong or a sound. I have a vibrational app on my phone that has a high frequency. If I'm having a bad day, I just turn it on, and I always sit at least once a day and take a breath and use a sacred mantra to quiet my mind. And as my thoughts jump in, I observe them. I don't get upset about them. And I gently refocus back to the sacred mantra. And doing that once a day is such a powerful way to learn that you are not your thoughts, that you are a higher consciousness, more than beyond the mind, beyond your thoughts. And meditation really shows us that. And you can try different forms, but the important thing is to stick with it. Find something that works and do it every day. Then what you're going to discover is, as you've learned to quiet, to sit in the silence, after that meditation is over, 10 minutes, suddenly you're hearing a different kind of wisdom voice come to you. And yes, it's real. And yes, it's loving, it's kind, it's enlightening, but now it's your choice to follow it and believe in it.
That's, meditation. It's, and I'll tell you, one of my sticking points is that I thought that, you had to have a blank mind, but if your mind is active or you're starting out and you're insecure, you just are like, oh, it's not working, do a guided meditation.
Yeah.
At least follow somebody's voice, and then following it will then take you away from your own thoughts. Your thoughts will come in, but
Yeah.
you do exactly what Reverend Sue said. You just sort of acknowledge them, but then go back at refocus to where you were.
Now, the real problem with humans is we beat ourselves up so much. I've talked to so many clients who say, "Oh, I can't meditate." And I go, "Well, tell me, how do you try?" And they say, "Well, I've tried mantra and I'll sit there and then nothing happens." And I'm like, "Great. You're doing great. Of course, your mind is going to come in and mess with you. You just observe it. And then you just refocus back to that beautiful sound, if it's Om or Om Namah Shivaya or the Lord's Prayer, whatever it is, just going back to it and saying those words and not stopping the process and going, gee, I'm getting this wrong. That's your mind trying to mess with you.
The ego, actually.
Right?
It's the ego.
The ego.
And the ego gets scared that you're going to displace it. And
That
that's
is
why
so
we keep
true.
interrupting these meditations. And so if you just know that this is just like a trickster playing with you,
The monkey mind.
the monkey mind, and then you can allow it to, just, don't push it away, but just acknowledge it like
Yeah.
you see somebody out of the
It's your
peripheral of the
friend.
window.
I always say, just tell your mind when it comes in and says you're doing this wrong or you're making this up, say, you're right, honey. Go sit over there and have a cookie while I just do this wrong and make it up. And just play with that. It's not this solemn thing that you're supposed to have a complete enlightenment experience when you meditate. No, it's a process of learning the difference between your thoughts and your soul's wisdom coming in. And sitting in the silence, you watch that happen. It plays out right in front of you. The anxiety thoughts, the fear thoughts, the self-doubt thoughts. Oh, that's my mind. Okay, go sit over there, baby. Relax.
Yeah.
And now this higher voice comes in and goes, you're a powerful divine being. Trust yourself. And that's a happier, sweeter, kinder, loving voice. And that's your higher self. And that's the one you want to let be your boss.
I love it. That is so great. You also have retreats. I want to just sort of talk about some of these retreats because you go to some of my favorite places like Omega Institute and Kripalu.
Well, I'm going to Sedona in March, and it's on my website, and it's called the Ascension Retreat, and it's got a lot of amazing speakers and teachers, and I'll be speaking. I'll be teaching a numerology workshop. I'll be doing a guided meditation. I'm so excited about it. So everybody needs a vacation to Sedona in March. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. So that's on my website. And then I also do online, like last night, I was doing an online Zoom group reading for 10 people, just going around and giving everyone spiritual guidance and a reading from numerology. And it was so profound and people were so helped by it. And of course, it's spirit working through me. It's not me. And I do those now pretty regularly and people can sign up and they're all on my website. And then my most exciting thing is, if anyone listening is grieving a child, please look at helpingparentsheal.org and please come to the Helping Parents Heal conference in August in Arizona, south of Phoenix. It's in a beautiful resort. And it's where last year or 2 years ago, we had 900 grieving parents at this retreat. And you would think that would be a terrible experience. It was the most high frequency event I have ever attended because I was one of the speakers, one of the teachers, and there were amazing teachers there. Everybody with the intention of let's shift up and hear and connect with our beloved departeds. And so when you are in a room full of 900 people feeling that spirit connection, it's transcendent. And that's happening this August in Arizona. And I watched parents move from, I don't believe I can connect, I'm devastated with my grief, 3 days later saying, I feel my child so next to me and I've written what they've told me and I've this and that. It was everyone had this transcendent experience. So that's happening in August. I urge people to really look into that if they're grieving a child. The next thing is the IONS conference in August, which is also here in Arizona. I have landed in the state that has all these retreat situations, which is so great. And the International Association of Near-Death Studies has a conference in August, and I'm always a part of that one too. And that's where you get to hear people talk about an actual death that they experienced. They were often even proclaimed dead by a doctor, and then what they witnessed and saw and experienced in the divine realms, and then came back into their body and changed their life completely. Those are such amazing stories. And anybody who's cynical needs to go and hear about that. They need to do their own spiritual practice, and they need to start opening their mind to the reality of understanding that the physical world, the quantum physicists have been telling us this for a long time. This physical world is not the real world. The real world is the world of energy, and it's invisible to us. So on that confusing note, I'll just say it's everybody's job to figure out how that works. Go on your journey.
I love it. That's amazing. But I was going to say, since it's a little bit early in time, but I'm going to do it anyway. Charity shout out, because you brought up the charity, which is helpingparentsheal.org, because not only are they putting on these amazing events, but they need support.
Yes.
Or like all not-for-profits.
They do. And they have, if you go to their website, they have free caring listeners. If you're devastated at the loss of a child, there are numerous people that will call you from Helping Parents Heal and talk you through your worst days of grief. And then there are local chapters everywhere, like all around the world, where grieving parents meet in person with the process of talking about signs from their children and how do we connect. And so it's a much more fulfilling and healing grief group for parents than I've ever seen before. And the children in spirit are so determined to help their parents know that they're okay, that the signs that these kids give parents is just amazing. Like, these children are tearing the veil apart. They're saying, there is no veil, there is no death, I am right here. And they are beautiful angel spirits. They show up. I work with so many grieving moms in my business. And when I see that they've lost a child, I'm like, oh, good, I get to connect to that beautiful child in spirit. And your life is changed when you do that every day. Your life is changed when you open to that. And helpingparentsheal.org is the highest place on this universe right now doing that work. It's extraordinary.
Which is phenomenal. And what's amazing is when you can heal, you give yourself a gift of a more joyful life. When you can open up and know that your child is still with you, it's a gift. Just like, you feel comfort when you have a parent who's on the other side or a loved one around you. The same thing with a child, and it calms you. And it's such a beautiful way of connecting and staying connected.
And the other thing is that these kids don't want their parents grieving for the rest of their life. I mean, every message from a departed child is like, Mom, get out of bed, like get back to your life. I want to see you happy. Like, never has a spirit said, oh, I'm so glad you're devastated by my exit. Because the minute we leave the body, we're in that exalted state of wisdom, of love, of understanding the soul's journey. And so we look down at our beloved humans on earth and we go, oh, I want you to do what you went to earth to do. I want you to accomplish your soul mission. So we got to heal this grief so you can move forward. And they try to help us in every way they can to be happy, to have joy again, to have love again, and to move forward. And that's kind of against what we think when we're grieving. I've had clients say, I don't want to be happy because it's an insult to my child's life. And I go, no, it's the opposite. Your child is looking at you. Make them proud. Show them how you can be for the rest of your life an example of love and compassion.
So here's a question I have for you. Now, this is something I was taught, so I wanted to know if you have a different perspective on this. But from what I understand, it's like when we go to sleep and we dream,
yes,
we come back to our body. That's the human way. When we transition, we go to sleep and we continue on the other side like a dream, like we're in this amazing dream state.
Well, that dream state is more real than this state, and it's a better world. I'll tell you that. And that's why I want people to go and listen to the near-death experiencers, because they are really our angels in this life. They come back and go, here's what I experienced. So for example, the person I interviewed recently, I have a mystical conversation podcast, and I love interviewing these near-deathers. This woman was stabbed 30 times by someone trying to kill her. It affected all of her internal organs. She was laying there bleeding, and she left her body. Suddenly, she's in this beautiful world of no pain, and she's being shown her whole past life and seeing things that she could have done better. She's being shown a future life that if she chooses to go back, she can accomplish and help all these people. And she's moving up into the higher realms of love and God consciousness, having conversations with God. And she goes, oh my gosh, I don't want to go back. And look at that body. I don't want to go back into that world of pain. And she's in this exalted, amazing place, and she doesn't want to go back. And she's told, no, you do want to go back because your soul hasn't really finished what you came to do. And she looks down at that body, and the next thing, she's back in it, and she was already dead, and they were trying to revive her.
Wow.
And suddenly she's back in the world of pain, and she's filled with grief because she wants to go back where she was. But as she begins to understand it and process it, she realizes, I'm back here because I want to help other people understand death and life. That's what every near-deather shares in their story, and it's profound.
My mother had a near-death experience. I don't normally share this, but she had bladder cancer in the 60s, and she had this experience. And because I was always so open as a child about things, she shared with me what happened, and her mother and her aunt came to her. And again, exactly what you were saying is what she said. It was love. It was peaceful. She didn't want to go back. And they said, no, you have to go back. But instead of her, being of service or anything, she was very angry. And that
she had to come back.
She was angry. She had to come back. She wanted to stay with her mother and her aunt. And she told me in no uncertain terms that I'm really angry that they made me come back.
Well, that brings us back to the important grief question, which we all feel when we've even just lost a loved one.
Right.
Why do I still have to be here? And then that brings me back to a soul mission, because there are no accidents. The fact that any of us are walking around on the earth realm taking another breath is because our soul has decided that we can do better, that we still have something important to do that will help others, that we can live with more love, with more compassion. And if that weren't the case, we would be out of here. That's the exit point. So if we're still here, we have to ask the question of, so what is my purpose now that will help my soul evolve and help many other souls evolve? And how do I make that the focus of my career, the focus of my work? And once we grapple with that, our soul is doing exactly what we needed to do here.
So for the listening audience, is there a way people know that, like, is it like they want to be of service? They come back, they want to be of service. How do they know they're on the right path? Of course, can they tell on their own? Is there something?
Well, if you're feeling very fulfilled by the work you do every day, and you know it's helping people, and you feel very in touch with spirituality, and you very much know that this is a realm of physical world is just a brief blip in the soul journey, then you're doing good. Keep going. But the minute you hit some sort of transition point or reinvention point where suddenly the job feels terrible and you've got to find something else, then you need to work with something like numerology or something that helps you see your soul path, your soul mission, and get more aligned with it. I personally think numerology is one of the best ways, and I write about it in all my books. But if you have a different way of figuring that out, go for it. The important point is find purpose and meaning in your life. And I'm in my 70s, and anybody who's just sitting around playing bridge in their 70s thinking that's what we're supposed to do in our old age, they need to get back to work. They need to figure out a meaningful job, even if they go and work every day at the homeless shelter, volunteer. I don't care. You've got to be plugged in to meaningful, purposeful work or volunteer, because that's what we're all here to do. And the physical body starts falling apart in old age because we are not living to our soul's purpose anymore.
Right.
And the minute we realign with a purpose of helping others, health is our natural state. It's our natural alignment.
And it gives you a skip in the heart in a positive way. You know, it elevates what you're feeling in your heart. I have a new, well, she's not a new puppy anymore. She's almost one, but we're training her to go to children's hospitals and senior centers to be a service dog, to let them, you know, hug her, play with her, because it helps you heal. It just helps you heal.
So good. I mean, I'm here in Phoenix where there is such an enormous senior population, and I have witnessed, you know, the difference between somebody in their 70s and 80s who does something meaningful, feels they have a purpose, versus those who think it's all one big golf game from now on, you know?
Right.
And trust me, the happy path is not the path of just bridge and golf for the rest of your life. Your soul is going, oh my God, get me out of here.
And probably that's why people who retire and they don't have hobbies or interests or anything, any way to do something more, I think they expire sooner.
I completely agree with that.
I mean,
or they just go through a long, slow, terrible journey of falling apart, which we see so much in the aging, you know, where it's 20 years of being unhealthy and unhappy. None of us want that. That's not how our soul intends to age. So we still have to seek that higher purpose.
we do. And I'm going to just bring up, I know that there are people in celebrity, but Betty White, Norman Lear, 99, 101, you know, they kept working until the end, or practically till the end. And it's sort of like the Tin Man. It kept them oiled and greased.
That's right.
So they could move and do more and give back.
I always tell people I'm going to do my work until my breath is gone and I can't speak anymore. And of course I can't do it as well as I did in my 50s. Like if I'm giving a talk on a stage, I'm going to have to lean on that pulpit for a minute, you know, and get my breath going, because, you know, there are some changes.
Yes.
But the purpose of it, saying I'm here on purpose, helping from my own pain story, all in all, that's going to align our cells, and we're going to have the energy we need to do our work.
And here's the thing: if you're going through something, but I hate to use the word pushing through, but you do sort of push through the challenges, and you're out there serving people, it's an example to people that you too can do the same thing, and you too can be of service and stay vital. Now, Natalie wrote, doesn't look like she's in her 70s.
Oh, that's the lighting here.
but no, it's more than the light in there. It's because of your energy. It's what you're doing and how it keeps you youthful. And again, I'm going to use the term well-oiled.
That's right.
Yeah, we all have, you know, look, we all have our stuff, but it could be really traumatic or it could be light, you know, like, yeah, I've got it, but I'm going to work through it. I broke my hip in July.
Oh,
I fell in the shower, but you know, there's a lot behind that. But my philosophy, my belief, what I'm looking to is, okay, getting better, you know, moving as much as I can, but still being of service, not only trying to heal myself physically, but to still want to help to heal other people in their life's trajectory.
And also, I just want to share this little thing I've learned too, is I've had a few health issues over the last few years. And at one point, I ended up in an ambulance. It's a crazy story. It was like a low sodium condition that had never been diagnosed in my life. And all of a sudden I was kind of going into a coma and didn't know why. And it was actually a low sodium thing. And these things do appear as we age, and they're giving us a thing we've got to remedy as long as but anyway, I ended up in an ambulance feeling the worst I had ever felt in my life. I wanted to die, right? Because I was feeling so terrible. And what I found is the minute I focused on the caregiver who was next to me in the ambulance and started saying, "Oh, how's your day? Tell me about your family. Talk to me so I don't focus on my own misery here." And he started going, "Really?" And I was like, "Yes." And he started telling me about his children and his life. I completely shifted. I mean, I was kind of going in and out of nausea and this terrible headache, but I could hear his voice and I was like, "Oh, you're a beautiful soul." And focusing on him got me through the worst feeling health crisis of my life. And we all have that opportunity. The nurse comes in to help you. Focus on how beautiful she is. Tell her how good she is. The minute we're sending that love and compassion out, we feel better. That's the great joke. The minute I'm turned inward going, "Oh, my head is killing me, I feel horrible," then life is misery.
And you bring more of that to yourself.
Yes, right.
Law of attraction. If you keep focusing on the pain and the depression or all the living maladies you could be carrying with you, then
Right.
you know what? It's going to bring you more because it doesn't know the difference. Spirit
That's
doesn't know the
right.
difference between, you saying you don't want any more of this, and but it's saying you must be because you're talking about it, so it brings you more.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, if I end up in some healthcare issue again, I've learned that trick, and I'm not gonna talk about myself or focus on myself. I'm gonna
Mhm.
be saying, "Oh, tell me about your life."
It's so funny because I told my paramedic, I was telling him jokes on the way to the hospital with my broken hip. I'm on drugs, but I'm telling him jokes because if I could hear him laugh,
Right.
then, it'll make it easier
Yeah.
for me.
And
And
for me, if I can focus on the angelic, beautiful potential in another soul, which I can see very easily in everyone, and just focus on that and emphasize that and make them smile, then I don't care what's going on in my body, you know? And I even have this health condition now where they're trying to tell me that I'm going to have open heart surgery. And I mean, at some point I might have to surrender to that. But now I know that no matter what happens in that journey, I'm going to be loving on everybody in that freaking hospital so much that it's going to catapult my healing.
it does. It truly does. I can share that from experience. We're running out of time still.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you the floor. If you want to share something that's coming up, something we didn't address, whatever it is, this is your time. And
Okay.
I'll just jump in in 4
I just
minutes.
want to tell everybody listening that you're all powerful divine beings who came here on purpose. You are not physical ego personalities who are flawed and who are trying to find your way through a hard life with tragedies. You are a powerful divine being, greater than any circumstance that comes your way, greater than any painful moment that comes your way. And all we ever have to do is just lift our head up and say, "Ah, beautiful spirit guides, angels, God consciousness, departed loved ones, lift me into that higher consciousness, lift me into that higher focus, help me move through this moment with grace and love." And here they are to help us. We have to ask sometimes, and that's what you all need to do when you're having a bad day. And that prayer is always answered. And so it is.
I love that because I don't know if you've ever heard any of my announcements, but I always talk to your beings because they love you, but they don't have free will.
That's it.
And be
They
careful.
They
Details
can't
matter.
interfere with us. We have to ask and say, I'm ready, show me, or take me in a better path. You know, I've talked to my departed husband. He's still very much a part of my posse. He comes and gives me information. And he goes, you think you're asking all the time, but you're not. You're shut down and you're looking down at the computer technology, like what happened this morning, and forgetting to ask for help from the spirits. And the minute you ask, they're allowed to step in and solve the problem. So we have to remember that, people. This is not a solitary journey. We have the spirit team to help us, but we don't believe in them. We don't trust them, so we don't ask.
Or you don't, you just get so caught up in your own stuff that you forget that you can ask, that you
Right.
are surrounded all the time. Departed, like you said, departed loved ones. You've got so many angels on the other side that really are just like going, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me.
Right.
And, you know, unless you do, you're not going to get what you're looking for. But sometimes you ask and there's still things you need to do to move the boulder out of the way for the flow.
Yeah. But you'll be shown those things with more clarity if you're asking to see it and understand it. You'll suddenly hear a voice tell you exactly what you need to do. You'll suddenly have an opportunity come that all you have to do is say yes to. But this whole world is an interplay between the destined path that we've come to fulfill and our free will. So the free will goes, no, I'm not going to change. No, I'm not going to open my heart. And the destiny goes, oh, but you're a divine being and you planned this. And so our free will decides who we're going to listen to, what part of ourselves. And trust me, it's so much happier to listen to your higher self.
It is. And, you know, sometimes just closing your eyes and going into a meditative state after you've talked to them will help might bring you the clarity you need. Sometimes you don't need to, because it comes in very esoteric ways. That's why it's about being aware and being mindful, because you can hear a song which has the answer to it, or a book falls out of a shelf, opens up, you look down, and whatever is the passages is what you needed to see right at that very
Exactly
moment.
right. Exactly right.
They're like micro miracles of life.
Yes. You know, how much time do we have? Can I tell a little story? How much time do we have?
We have one story worth of time.
Okay. My husband, Paul, departed 43 years ago. So, you know, I have many people go, well, why do you keep talking about that? And the reason is he still comes to give me guidance. And the quantum physics explain that time and space is happening all at once. It's not linear. So yes, he can be moved on, and he can also come and help me and guide me. So in July, on the anniversary of his death, I always have this kind of emotional couple of weeks that I go through. And it's not that I'm wishing he was with me. It's almost like I'm remembering the veil thinning during that time. And I think it's a homesickness of saying, can I go home yet? Am I done? And so I was feeling that this July. And Paul, I kept saying, Paul, I really need a big sign to show me that I'm still supposed to be here, that you're still watching over me and making sure I'm doing things right, and that I've made you proud. And so my husband, Gene, and I decide to go to this cute little art town in Cave Creek, Arizona, and look around. And we walk into a store, and right on the counter display as we walk in is this huge symbol of the crescent moon with the star in the middle. That was the necklace Paul gave me when we fell in love. The beautiful crescent moon with the star in the middle. And that was the configuration of the sky on the night we sat outside and had our ceremony of Joy of Life ceremony after Paul crossed. My friend said, look at the sky. And I looked up, and there was the crescent moon and the star, just like he had given me in the necklace. And there was this July, 43 years later, walking into a store, seeing it right there. And I just started crying, going, okay, I get it. I get it. I'm still supposed to be here. I'm doing okay. You know, and the store lady was like, that's nice artwork, but like, why is it making you cry? You know, she was like,
she couldn't understand it. She didn't get it.
You know, and I bought it and we brought it home, and I keep looking at that going, all right, well, I ask for signs and I get them, and we all do. And that's a beautiful thing about this universe.
So the moral of the story is ask.
Yes.
You need to ask, and then be open
Yes,
how it's going to come to you.
exactly.
Reverend Sue Frederick, I am so grateful for you, what you do, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for sharing everything with
Thank
us.
you. It has been an absolute blessing to be with you. You're in my heart. This was a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I want to thank Bridget for all you do for me, my right hand, my left hand.
Thank you, Bridget, for trying to help me this morning.
Oh my God. I want to thank you, the listening audience, for taking time out of your day, out of your life to be a part of this show, because this show is created for you so that you can receive incredible, valuable, poignant information like Reverend Sue Frederick just shared with you through these past moments, which you can tune in and re-listen to anytime you want on your favorite listening platforms. So thank you. So
Thank you.
before I leave, as I'm getting ready to leave, I want to share next week our guest is Dr. Susan Jameson. Dr. Susan Jameson integrates science and spirituality, teaching how to be your own light, well-being through light, energy, and consciousness. So please tune in for that. Also, gift giving season, one more reminder. My book, My Fucking Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path, always written with you in mind, not just to vomit up my dysfunctional life and how I healed, which I'm so grateful for, but to show that you're not alone. And not only is it the story of my healing, but I also share tips, tools, and techniques in the back of the book that I used and I continue to use throughout my life to help it. So check it out on my website, MarlaGoldberrg with 2Rs.com, or on Amazon. Just look me up. All right. Now, as I leave you, as always, I send you love, blessings, and gratitude. So grateful that you're in my life in whatever capacity you're in it, for not only are you my student, you are my teacher. Not only am I a teacher, I'm a student, and a lifelong one at that. So thank you. And I'm going to say these 3 words to you. I love you. You are loved, not just by me, not just by Reverend Sue Frederick, but and your family, your friends, your community, but you've got a plethora of beings on the other side of the veil who are just itching to be of service to you, to help you through these earthly things you chose to create so that you can get through them and live the life you're divinely meant to live. So talk to them. I don't want to reiterate, because Reverend Sue said it so beautifully about asking and talking and then allowing for what you asked for to come through. So just remember that if you're in a place with inclement climate, please, 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 please put in your car blankets, water, food. If you travel with animals, please have enough for them. A big can, maybe from that 120-ounce tomato sauce, if you're making some big something or other, with a candle and matches. And if you light that, crack your windows, because it will help create heat if you get stranded somewhere somehow. And this way you're warm, you have hydration, you have nutrition for you and whoever's traveling with you. Okay, it's the holiday season. I hope you enjoy every moment of this glistening, magical time of year, which it is. And I will see you next week. Take care, be safe, and know that you truly are loved.